This is a video on how to repair the rear wheel hinge. It's going to look like that if it's broken, and we will send you a replacement hinge plate assembly along with a rubber adhesive cover that is going to go ahead and cover these four nuts at the end of the assembly. The only tools you'll need are two Allen wrenches, one 5/32 and another one 7/32. First, you're going to want to lay your go down, face down, and I suggest putting some kind of protective material beneath it so you don't scratch it. Something like a blanket, yoga mat, foam, and lay it down so that you have the two rear wheels facing up and you have easy access to both the hinge and this rubber cover that we're going to remove to reveal the to detach the axle. Okay, next you're going to take your 7/32 Allen key and you're going to go ahead and insert it here on the left side of the rear wheel hinge and loosen this up. There's a hex nut on this end that's going to allow you to just simply unscrew this long bolt and maybe keep the nut in there so that you can unthread it completely. You can push out, and now the nut has come loose. You're going to set that aside. I'm going to use my Allen key to push the bolt out of the housing. I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. Now I'm going to remove this luggage handle because you're going to reuse that. Set that aside. Now we're going to want to remove this hinge plate assembly that's still tied to the axle. But in order to do that, you're going to have to pull the trigger latch, which is going to disengage the ratchet hinge over here. You'll be able to see it pop out, and these ratchet teeth will likely come loose. And now that that's been removed, I can easily pop this off. A little silver washer is going to be on this end of it. You're going to want to keep that because that's a spacer that you're going to reinsert when installing the new hinge plate assembly. So set that aside as well. So I've moved the go aside, and now we're dealing strictly with the rear hinge plate assembly tied to the existing axle. So the next step is going to be to remove this rubber cover, which I've already kind of gone ahead and started. It's an adhesive. You don't have to worry about conserving it because we've sent you a new one that you're going to be applying to the new hinge plate. Next, you're going to take your 5/32 Allen key and begin loosening these hex bolts or Allen bolts. Set those aside. You're going to be reusing them. There's a little hex nut on the end. You want to keep that on each one. So keep a finger underneath here so that you don't, that little nut doesn't get away from you. All right, I've done all 4, and now we're simply gonna detach this hinge plate from the axle. All right, you can go ahead and get rid of this, but before you do, this barcode is your serial number and unique ID that allows you to pair with your Go. So I would remove that sticker and place it either somewhere safe or ideally on the new replacement hinge plate that we've provided you, so that you can still scan that and also retain your serial number that is tied to that specific unit. So now we're going to work backwards and get this hinge plate back on the axle. I'm going to go ahead and thread the bolt through and use the little lock nut. Get it threaded a little bit. Not gonna tighten it all the way. We'll just get each separate one started and then finish up by tightening everyone. All right, now that I have all of them in place, I'm going to go ahead and tighten each one securely. All right, we're good to go. Now before proceeding, I'm going to take the little rubber adhesive and I'm going to cover up those exposed nuts. Okay. And I'm going to take the new part and I'm going to place it here near the hinge, but now I'm going to pull the trigger latch, right, to retract the set of teeth into the hinge, and it'll slide right there. Then I can just place it gently and then release the trigger latch on the go, and I should be all set to go. Now, the next step is going to be to take the bolt, the hex bolt, sorry, the Allen bolt, and insert it through here, ensuring that I am going straight through. I might need to wiggle the plate in place a little bit, but before I reach this position here, this far side of the main center hinge, I'm going to take my spacer that was there initially and insert it there and make sure that the bolt finds its way through that washer as I'm assembling it. So here we go, a little bit of wiggling, and it goes all the way through. Now I'm going to grab the nut and put it on the outside, and then use my 6mm Allen key to simply tighten it as I secure the nut with my finger so it has a counterpoint. All right, attach it nice and tight. Obviously the handle is still in there. That should have remained part of the assembly. And again, we're going to cover how this hinge works. Right now it's stuck in standby mode. I'm unable to lift it past this point. Never ever force this hinge. The only way you can move it is to release to pull the trigger latch here. That will release that set of ratchet teeth, and all of a sudden this can move freely 180 degrees because I'm holding the trigger latch. If I release it, it will block into whichever position here in power assist. It's locked, I can't move it until I pull the trigger, and then I can move it freely.